can adjust my okay. Hi guys, and welcome back. Just switch all my lights on, get everything set up. Hi guys, and welcome back to Studio Wildlife. This is my live stream as part of the Artists for Painted Dogs Sketchathon, and I've currently done 3 pictures. So I've done a cheetah, a gorilla, and a panda. I think the gorilla has now sold, which is fantastic, so thank you so much. 50% of all of the proceeds are going to charity. They are going to Game Rangers International, the Endangered Wildlife Trust, and Wildlife ACT. All conservation charities, all aimed at, well, conserving our wildlife. So if you watch part 1 of the stream, you'll have seen me paint the panda, you'll have seen me paint the gorilla as well. So next up, what we're going to do is create a polar bear, as that was what people asked for next. So I'm going to swap out the polar bear, and we're going to make a start on this. So for everyone that has not seen the first stream, the colours that I am using mainly in this piece are going to be a Mars black, a raw umber, a burnt sienna, raw sienna, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, a phthalo blue, or it might be a cobalt blue, I'm not sure which blue it is, a red, buff titanium, a green, and white. And they are all the colours that we are going to be using today. So hopefully you can see the screen okay, hopefully everything's coming through, hopefully the sound is all good. And we will just make a start. So I'm going to start by using a 1-inch flat brush here, and I want kind of like an icy blue background to start with. So I'm going to take some of my blue, and I'm not going to add any white to it just yet. What I'm going to add to it is a little bit of buff titanium. So that's a little bit of almost yellow and white, which will just grey off this piece a little bit. And then I'm going to use very, very watered down paints and just start to almost outline this polar bear quite roughly, but just following the line of that graphite drawing that I've already put down. Don't worry about drips, they'll just add to the effect. So I just want this blue wash going down, just like this. Nice and simple. Then we can start just pulling some of that blue away. We can actually knock some of that away. And let's just make it all blue. Make my job a lot easier. Hey, feel free to say hello. I do like seeing comments. I like hearing from you guys. So introduce yourselves, ask me questions, anything you want. For this one, what we're going to do next is make it, I want a little bit of purple in this one, I think. So I'm going to add a little bit of red to what I've just done. And just in some places, I want quite like a mystical almost background. Just going to add some of this purple just around, almost like the Northern Lights kind of thing. Just going to move my polar bear slightly and move this lamp at the back, which you can't see, because it's just making a horrible noise. There we go. Hopefully that's a little bit better for you. So just going to put some of this nice dark purpley reddy blue. Let's get a little bit more red in there as well. Just a little bit. That's probably a little bit too red. We're just going to add a little bit more blue. So that makes keeping it nice and watery and just popping it down in certain places. Not bothering too much with this one about the drips. It'll all add to the effect later on. I'm also going to get a little bit of yellow ochre as well for this bit and add in some, that's probably a little bit too saturated. So mix it with the purple colour just to grade off a little bit, but just adding some of this yellow ochre in as well, just in certain places. Add some around its back. And we've got this nice icy looking background. I didn't get a chance to check him out, unfortunately, Kevin. I was busy just prepping for the next stage. What I'm going to do is just have a quick Google now. Oh, I think I have seen Andy Caddick, actually. I think I follow him on Instagram. Andy Caddick. Yeah, I have seen his work. Yeah, it's really good, that like combination of the acrylics and the airbrush. It has such a good effect. Yeah, and I think he must do the finishing touches with a brush, but it's nice because you can get that like soft out of focus hair, that fur with the airbrush, which you can't necessarily always get with a brush, especially if you're using acrylics. It's easier to get soft out of focus hair with oils than it is with acrylics. So all I'm doing here, just that same technique as before, just pulling away some of that paint, not all of it, just some of it to create these nice abstract shapes and marks. In this one, it's kind of like giving the impression of like ice almost, or like frost, which is nice. It's nice how you can do the same technique, and depending on the colours that you use and the sort of situation that your painting is in, it can have a completely different effect and a completely different outcome, which is really cool. I'm just going to lift it up a little bit because it's just a little bit too dark at the bottom where all that water's gone in. So I'm just going to tap some of that away. Okay. I quite like the colours of that background now, so I'm going to leave them as they are. In fact, I really like those colours. That was quite a nice, happy outcome. What I'm going to do something a little bit different with this one. Whereas the other painting I used black to do my outline, for this polar bear I'm actually going to use white to do my outline. So I'm just going to take my small detail brush, that bold mirror detail brush. I'm just going to take some of my white and I'm just going to start outlining the bear. In fact, it's still too wet, so I changed my mind. I am going to use the black because it's easier for me to see. But we won't do as harsh a black. What we'll do is more like a mid-tone grey mixed with a little bit of blue. We'll keep it quite cold. So I'm just outlining my drawing here. Another one of those pieces is sold now. So the gorilla and the cheetah have sold, which is fantastic. Thank you guys if it's any of you guys that are watching that have bought them. So now it's just the panda that is left of the ones that I've already done. And this polar bear obviously will be available once it's finished. But thank you everyone that is supporting the exhibition and supporting those charities and supporting me by joining this live stream and purchasing. It does really mean a lot. Hi Zixarthi, nice to meet you. Hey, anyone that's new to the stream, just feel free to ask any questions as we go, and I'll try my best to answer them and help you. It can be about me, it can be about the art, it can be about anything you want. Thank you very much. Have you got a favourite video? So I'm just trying to be as quick as possible. I got that last gorilla one done in pretty much an hour, it's about an hour and 10 minutes. So I'm going to aim for the same with this polar bear, not spending too long on it. Let's try and get it done by, I'm hoping about 2:30, maybe a little bit later because the stream started a little bit later. Okay. See what that leg will be. Good, very glad that you found that helpful. I'm actually in the process of painting another tiger, a bit more of a bigger picture of a tiger, that long and thin one. I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, but I've posted it a few times, or the process of it, or the progress of it a few times. But that'll be up in probably a few weeks as well. So that'll be another tiger video that'll hopefully be quite helpful. Putting a little ear in, just some of the shadows. Going to have a lot of the light for this one coming straight from the top. So I'm just drawing in where I want that light to be. Then we'll have our little eye just there. And then we'll also have a little shadow of that eye socket that will join up with shadows of the face. So I'm just looking at the shapes of my reference photo. Again, another one from Unsplash. I'm just trying to match it as best as I possibly can. Okay, there we are. So all I'm going to start by doing is just using that same black colour, I think, or that grey bluey colour. I'm just going to sort of block in some of the shadowy shapes. It's all still quite wet, so all of the colours are actually going to blend into each other, which is quite a nice effect in some places. So I'm just, where I want those shadows, I'm just very quickly just blocking in this shadowy colour. I'm going to change these colours later and adjust them, but for now, this will be fine. Just so I've got a rough idea of where those shadows are going to be. And then all of this is going to be in shadow as well. Probably could do this with a bigger brush. Well, definitely should be doing this with a bigger brush, but I can't be bothered. I've already started now. Okay, there we go. There is my quick blocking. I'm just going to mute the stream again, just so that I can use a hairdryer just to dry it off, so I can work on the next couple of layers. There we go. Hopefully that's nice and dry now. So what I'm going to start to do is start to pick out some of the shapes that I can see. Sorry, I'm just using my Mac just to get my reference photo up. So I'm just going to carry on using a filbert brush, and I'm just going to start to block in some of those darker colours a little bit. So I'm just going to refine my darks a little bit more. So I'm going to take some yellow ochre and some black to create a very sort of warm grey, and then put a little bit of blue in it to just cool it down. And this is going to be my dark colour. So it's a very similar colour to what I was doing already. In fact, that's probably a little bit too dark. So what we're going to do, add a touch more blue, just a tiny little bit, just to cool it down, and then add a little bit of the buff titanium paint, just to lighten it up without losing that saturation, without putting white in there. And then all we're going to do is just look for the darkest areas of my picture. And all I'm trying to do is just scumble and brush some of this colour, keeping it quite a light wash, so some of the colours that I've put through already will continue to show through. And all I'm really doing is just trying to establish a few sort of textures and a bit of fluff. We don't need to go into massive amounts of detail because it's such a small painting. Have a little bit of this colour on our back leg as well. Shadowy colours getting into the foot, just like that. And then on the front leg that's set back a little bit here as well. So we're starting to establish a bit of that polar bear, and then we'll also have some around the eye. I'll put that eye back in a little bit better later on, but for now we're just trying to establish some of those nice sort of bluey yellowy slash greeny shadows. A little bit on the muzzle, and we'll do a touch on our back leg as well. Yeah, I like the cloud. I think I thought that as well, especially like the bit that I really like is kind of like here, where this nice little bit of yellow is showing through. It's almost like the sun catching on some clouds or some ice, and I really like that effect. I think what I'm going to do is just have it walking on sort of like an ice, a bit of snow. So this bit underneath is going to go very like white and quite soft, which will hopefully look quite cool. Well, fingers crossed anyway. No pun intended with the looking quite cool. Okay, now we're going to add just a touch more buff titanium to that, just to lighten it up, give us a bit of a lighter layer, and we're also going to add a little bit more yellow ochre, just to sort of cream it up a little bit, but still, it's just on the yellower side of grey. And we're going to start adding some of this colour in as well. Still working in very thin washes, not putting down lots and lots of thick paint. We just want to build up these darker layers, and then we'll work on the lighter layers, which will be a bit thicker and a bit more opaque later on. Just trying to establish some of these darker colours so that we've got something to work over the top of. See where we can put some of this a little bit up here, a little bit here, a little bit here. Just start to build up more and more of these dark colours, getting lighter and lighter with each layer. Let's put a little bit of this colour under his eye. I will refine the eye later on as well, so it will get better than this. Okay. Now let's try and get something a little bit warmer. So I'm going to take a little bit of burnt umber to my mix. I want to try and grey this out a little bit. It's a little bit too saturated. Now we're going to add a little bit of white to it as well to create a bit of a lighter colour, but still on this grey side. We're still not getting near the white just yet. So we're going to start looking at where a few more of our shadows are, and just start putting these bits of colour. Doesn't have to be completely smooth, doesn't have to be completely neat. We're just dabbing it down, and in fact, leaving some gaps and leaving some of that colour showing through will add to the impression of that soft fur of the polar bear. Hopefully we're starting to get a little bit of shape now, a little bit of form to him. Let's actually lighten this bit. It was a bit darker there, not really too fond of that. Same for the back legs. Get rid of a little bit of that greeny colour. It's a little bit too green for what we want just yet. And all we're really doing is just essentially almost randomly putting this down. Just trying to follow the shape of the polar bear a little bit. But I'm not really paying too much attention to where it's going. I probably should be, but I'm not. Have a little bit of this kind of like reflected light underneath all the body and on some of the tips of the feet. Same for this side. Touch lighter in some places. just like that. Right, now we're going to start going a little bit lighter with this piece. So we're going to start looking for some lighter coloured fur. I think to go a little bit lighter, we are actually going to make it a little bit more blue, a little bit colder. So I'm going to add some purple to my mix. Some purple and a bit of white. So we're getting a little bit more saturated now as we go into the lighter colours. So just putting some of this colour into some areas, just to cool it all down a little bit. Hopefully that's looking okay on the screen, and it's making sense what I'm doing. But if you have any questions at all, if there's anything you want to know, please just ask away. Okay, kind of liking the blue that we've got going. Let's put a little bit of kind of shadowy bit at the top of that polar bear's head, and a little bit of a shadowy bit in that ear. Okay, we can start to build up more of the highlights now, and the highlights are going to be a little bit warmer. So first of all, we're just going to warm this grey up. We're going to use a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of buff titanium, and then mix it with the blue that we've just created, just to knock it back a little bit so it's not completely bold. And then we're going to just start to put in some of this yellowy colour. This is just our base colour. I want to make it a little bit more orange, so I'm going to add a little bit of raw sienna to the mix, make it a little bit warmer. That's a bit better. And just where this light would be hitting, I'm just going to essentially just paint this colour in for now. Just keeping it as a wash, but just painting the whole thing this warm yellowy colour. Everywhere where that light, that warmth might be hitting. Maybe there would be a bit on the back of the legs, a bit on the fur down there. Where else might there be some warmth? There could be a little bit of this, so like warmth just showing through the fur at the back of the legs. Might be a little bit sort of at the front of the body. And again, this is just the shadow that I'm still working. I'm still working on the darks, so we're not too bothered about putting some of this in our shadows. It can stay there for now. A bit too much there, but we'll just knock it back a little bit with my finger, and then just continue to fill in the rest of the shape. And it's made so much easier by the fact that we've already done that outline. Don't feel like you have to stick to your outline though. You can change it as we go. It's a nice little warmer glaze over the top, just like that. So I'm going to take a little bit more buff titanium, just to that same mix, and really water it down. I'm actually just going to add a few little sort of strands or attempted bits of fur, just loosely, just these little lines of fur in the body of the polar bear. Just warming it up, making it a little bit more confluent with the yellow that we just put at the top. So we've still got all of that blue showing through, all those dark greens showing through, but we've now also got a little bit of lighting, little bit of that nice yellow showing through as well. Do the same as we get up at the top here. And the same near the back, on this back leg here. There's just a few places where there's going to be a little bit of light or reflected light hitting rather than actual light. We just want to be able to establish some of that form. Same on the back of his legs, tuft up the back of his fur, this little bit. It's pretty similar to the way that I was doing the gorilla earlier. Okay, I'm just going to switch the lights off, so it's going to go a bit of a funny colour because my light is flickering. So I just need to adjust that, just so I can get it a bit brighter again. There we go, that's a little bit better. Sorry for that. So next up, we're going to start to get a little bit lighter with this fur at the top. So we're going to add a little bit more white to that yellowy colour that we've just made. And we're going to start to put in a little bit more of the highlighted colour. So we're just keeping that yellow, keeping it quite solid, and just starting to add a little bit more texture and a little bit more fur in certain areas. Getting a bit lighter as we go, and then this is the little tail here. And this is the edge of that back leg. Just literally just building up layer on layer the lighter colours. We're going to have quite a big bit of lighter colour here, a little bit of tuft, and have it join up with the tail at the back. It's starting to come together a little bit, I think. Just going to then repeat that process. Again, if you've got any questions about anything I'm doing or anything in general, just ask away. Give me something to talk about. Just put it in. A little bit more fur detail as we go. Starting to get a little bit more polar bear looky now. Okay. Get in there. I don't think this one will even take as long as the gorilla. I think this one will be done pretty soon, really. Just adding in some more of these little sort of mid-tony highlights. They're not proper highlights yet. We'll save those to the very end. Okay. Let's do one more layer of lightening, but this time we'll put a touch of blue in our mix. We want a nice light blue. It was getting a bit warm. Now we're going to cool it down a little bit with a bit of blue in the lighter colours. So you'll see I'm going to start to put this in. Might not make that much of a difference on your screen, but it's making a difference to the picture. It's just adding a touch of cooler light to the polar bear. Just looks a little bit nicer, in my opinion. Let's put some of this cooler light on the rest of the body. Just put a little bit of water in it, just to thin it out a little bit, and then we'll put a couple of bits of this nice cool stuff on our front leg. Then we'll do the same, put a little bit of it on the back leg just to tuft it up a little bit, and then also some just here like this. Okay. That colour here is probably a little bit too sort of light for my liking, so I'm going to mix a little bit of a darker colour again, just to give it a little bit of a wash and just to knock it back a little bit because it's a bit too light. So I'm just knocking it back with a bit of a glaze. Right, then there are some little bits of some warmth that I want showing through, just in the shadowy areas. So I'm just going to glaze a little bit of burnt umber with a little bit of burnt sienna with a little bit of raw umber, just to create a couple of these quite saturated brown marks, just in certain places. The ear's a good place for it. Just here, a little bit under the paws, here, a little bit down here. a little bit on this leg, a little bit on this leg, just before that highlight. Just touch it up a little bit, just blend it together. Okay, I quite like that. So now I'm going to take more of my white, and I don't want a pure white here, I'm just sort of mixing it to create a lighter colour, because we're going to lighten this area up even more. And I'm actually going to use quite a bit of pure white for this painting in a second, but we'll just lighten up this top edge just that little bit more. Uh, yeah, sometimes I will. I don't think for this one I'm going to. I think I'm just going to leave it as it is once it's all finalised. As long as I can get a nice bit of form. But yeah, in my big paintings, usually what I do is start dark and then go lighter, and then I will glaze the darks back again afterwards at the end. But this one, I probably won't do any more dark glazing, I don't think. I think I'm just gonna leave it as it is, because I quite like the colours that I've got. It's a little bit different. It's not the usual colours that you'd see maybe in a polar bear painting. Get most of these colours in, just like that. And now I think we will be ready in a second. I'll just put a little bit more fur. Just here. And a little bit more down here, just going onto the leg. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is use my small detail brush again. And I'm just going to take my pure white now, just using completely pure white. And I'm going to start to refine this a little bit more. So above that eye, we're going to have a little bit of a brow, which is going to come here. Right, we're also going to have this sort of edge, which will be a lot lighter, and then we'll just get that ear in as well. The nose, we're going to have our first sort of bridge of the nose. It's going to be quite white there, and then we're going to split it up into a few little smaller pieces, just like that. That looks okay so far. We're maybe going to remove some of this white line, so we're just going to extend the size of the nose a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's then start to add some of these nice bright white bits of fur. So we're definitely going to have some nice white fur behind the ear, lighting that ear up just like that. We're also going to have a little bit more just here. And then we're going to start to get some bits of the rest of the body. So we'll definitely have some over here. Hopefully you can see that starting to form. In fact, we'll have all of this edge being a bit closer to pure white. Just sort of tufting it down at the bottom to blend it in. And we'll just start adding a few little lines here and there, just to imitate that white fur. Let's put some down here a little bit more. It's missing some. Bit down here where those folds are catching the light. In fact, let's lighten up this whole bit of his head. Just here. Okay, liking it so far. Then just put in some of these loose strands of fur on his back leg. Couple down near the bottom. Couple here. We're still just doing quite a thin wash at the minute. I'm going to do a very much thicker bit of white in a second, just to finish it off, to really make some of the bits pop. For now, I'm just adding in some more of those little detailed hairs. How long have we got? We've got about 10 minutes left before my hour's up. Not bad, really, for this one. A few little tufts, a few little bits. Just trying to build it up. Okay, and then finally, I'm just going to get this angled brush and just quite a fair bit of paint. I'm not watering it down at all. And just getting some white. I'm just going to put in some quite thick, very opaque bits of white, really where that light is hitting. I'm just going to get rid of this black line at the top, just with a little bit more white paint. Okay, I am just using pure white here. I really want it to pop against the background. So I'm just using that white paint just to get rid of some of those darker lines. Make it look a little bit flush. I don't mind if some of those lines are still there because it is just a sketch. So it adds a little bit when those dark lines are there as well to the fact that it is a sketch. Okay, now let's very quickly sort out this mouth and eye. So the eye, I'm just going to take a little bit of black. We've not actually got any eye in yet. I'm just going to do a little bit of this black paint and just put in a small polar bear eye. And then for the nose, I'm going to do the same thing, just this black paint, and just start to find where that nose would be. Maybe put a little bit of a dark blob in the ear, a little bit of a bit darker bit on the other ear. Mouth then. Start to put some mouth in. Just put a little bit of blue just to do a bit of glazing. Darken this area up a little bit. Few little dark lines here and there. Just a tiny bit of glazing, not much, just a tiny little bit. Maybe a touch more, just refining some of those legs a bit, just making it very clear where the front leg is, where the back leg is. Darkening off some of this back leg as well. I'm almost just drawing at this point, just colouring in, essentially. A few little darker bits, just darker hairs in as well if you wanted to, just like that. Just glaze away some of this red. We want to keep some of it, but not all of it. And then let's just darken this little bit. This little patch that's under his mouth doesn't need to be as bright. And a little bit of I think the polar bear itself is pretty much done there. Thanks, Kevin. So now what I'm going to do is just take my filbert brush again, and I'm just going to give him a bit of floor to stand on. So I'm pretty much going to start with just a very light blue to start with. And all I'm going to do is just almost like clouds again, almost like smoke, just put in this like little smoky textured floor. Thank you, Sophie. And welcome back, everyone. Hi, Debbie. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much. Yeah, anybody that else is new, just please just pop your name in the chat or pop where you're from in the chat. It's really nice to meet you all and get to know you guys. So please do, just feel free to pop a message in the chat. Just ask any questions that you want and talk to me, basically. Okay, now I think I'm going to add a little bit more white to this. Just to make it pop in some places, so just in some places, make it a little bit whiter. It does make it look like it is walking on clouds, but I don't mind. Quite a nice effect, I think. And then the final bits, just like before, I'm just going to use that trusty toothbrush and just do a little bit of flicking some colour. So I want a little bit of like a pinky colour. So I'm going to take some red, a little bit of that white, mix it with a little bit of blue and just create this sort of nice pinky colour. I'm just going to do a couple of little flicks. just like that. Then we're going to take a little bit of a yellow colour, just do a few little flicks with the yellow ochre as well. We're going to, again, just grey that off with a little bit of the purple. We don't want it being super saturated. Again, just a couple of little flicks of that yellow colour over the top. And I don't think I'm going to flick any blue on. I think the blue is okay as it is. But what I am going to flick on is some white. So I'm just cleaning off this toothbrush and I want quite a bit of pure white. Quite thick, quite bright, just being flicked onto the remainder of that canvas. And then there we go. I think that's pretty much done. I hope you guys like this one. All that's left to do now is just sign it. So I think I'm going to go for a sort of purpley blue colour just down in this bottom right hand corner. In fact, should we go left hand corner or right hand corner here? Down here or down here? I think I'm actually going to sign this one over here because I don't think the signature will detract as much from the picture. Or in fact, I'm going to sign it over here, but I'm going to do it in a very light blue, just so it doesn't detract too much from the picture itself. So just very, very pale blue. Almost so you can't see it. There we go. So there it is, finished. So I will just take a photo of this one and then we'll move on to the next piece. So the next piece I'm going to do is actually one that I've not said. I thought it was the Painted Dogs exhibition, so artists painted dogs, and I've not actually done a painted dog sketch yet. So that's what I'm going to do next. I've got a smaller canvas that will be a little painted dog sketch as well. So that's what we're going to do. I'll just very quickly send this off with all the details. This one will be available to purchase through the Artist for Painted Dogs website. So it will be on the website in about 10 minutes or so. So if you do want to get your hands on it, just head on over to the Artist for Painted Dogs website. There's a link to it in the description below of this chat, and you can go and pick it up. And I deliver internationally. So even if you're not from the UK, you can get your hands on this picture. Okay, just give me a second and we will be ready to start the next painting. Just sorting out this so that it can go onto the website. Okay, I'll just have a little drink. Okay, let's move on to the next one, which is going to be a painted dog. So this one is a little bit of a smaller canvas. So I'll just swap these out. A little bit of a smaller canvas, as you can see. So the other canvases were 8 by 10 inches. This one is only, I think that 8 by 10 inches is 25 by 20 centimeters, whereas this one is 21 centimeters across and 15 centimeters long. So it's A5 size if you're from the UK and you know those paper sizes. So really quickly, I'm just going to clean off some of that palette. So if you weren't in the last video, I clean my palette off. I've got a glass palette and I just use a glass scraper to clean my palette. And it just makes it so much easier than using a plastic palette or a wooden palette, because you can just clean up so easily. And even if I've left paints on there for weeks, if I just give the palette just a little spray with some water, I can remove all of that paint really, really easily. And it just makes a massive difference. So if you don't have a glass palette, I do recommend getting one. You can buy them, or I have got some tempered glass that I use as well. In fact, I've got a tempered glass table that I'm using at the minute, but I also have a single piece of tempered glass that I use as well that is perfect for it. Obviously, just tape up the sides so that you don't cut yourself on the glass. But it makes a really, really effective palette that is really easy to clean and fantastic for acrylics and for oils. Okay, let's move on to the painted dog picture. I will just find my reference photo. Again, I got it from Unsplash. Fantastic resource. Or in fact, this one might not have been from Unsplash. This one might have been from Pixabay. I think it might have been from Pixabay. So I think for this one, I'm going to do a bit more of an African landscapey kind of scene. So we're going to have some oranges, some reds. It's going to be a lot warmer. There's going to be some like long grass in there. So we're going to start with a little bit of a raw sienna and yellow ochre with a touch of cadmium yellow just to brighten it up, a little wash. And this is going to create this really nice, bright orange. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Just wash over the top. This orangey colour. Just like that. Then I'm going to get a little bit of burnt umber, just mixing it in, just to create a bit of a browner colour. I'm going to start to just pop this in. A lot of the light is going to be coming from the top, so I want this top side a little bit darker so it contrasts with the light. Let me just pop this back a little bit. There we go, so it doesn't knock around. We'll maybe put a little bit of this darker stuff around here as well. I'm just outlining my painted dog essentially here. Just very roughly. I'm actually going to do 2 layers on this background. So the first layer, I'm just going to Do the same thing, just knock some of it away using this, but I'm going to make this one a little bit more of a substantial background. I'm going to make the background a little bit more solid instead of a wash. But to do that, I first need to reinforce my drawing just so it doesn't disappear when I do my washes. So for this one, I'm going to just use some raw umber paint, mix with a little bit of black. So I'm going to keep the line quite brown just to fit with the theme. So I'm just going to start to trace around my outline. Just looking at my reference photo as well, correcting anything if it needs correcting. But just drawing really nicely, really easily with this detail brush. Again, anyone that's got any questions, just ask away. Got 2 ears in now, which is nice. And we'll get this front leg in here. Again, just to make things easier, I'm not doing any of the feet. Just going to keep it nice and simple. And just end the legs as little stumps. But to hide the little stumps, I'm obviously fading them out into the background. Okay, so that wants to go away. I don't want that as a line. What I want is this as a line. Just drawing around it. Sorry, this is the boring part. This is the bit that takes sort of the longest to do, and there's not really much that you gain from this part. Just drawing around an outline. Put an eye in. Put a little nose in. Put a little mouth in. Put some of the patterns in as well. Darker spots, some of these darker marks and lines, as well as some of these lighter spots, which we'll pick up later. I think the way that I'm going to paint this is just block in the sort of like browny coloured fur first, and then add the white bits and the darker black bits over the top afterwards. I'm going to just try and establish some form and some fur direction first, and then worry about all the patterns. Give it a little tail. Okay. Okay, I'm quite happy with that little sketch. That is as good as it needs to be for now. I'm just going to pause the video because I'm just going to dry it off so I can do a few more washes. Sorry, not pause the video, just mute the mic. Just so I can dry it with a hairdryer, just so I can do a few more washes on the back, just to make the background a little bit better. Okay, there we go. I'm not making the same mistake as my last video when I painted the elephant, where it wasn't drying very quickly. So I'm just using that hairdryer to dry it so I can work on the layers and I'm not spending ages on it. So now I'm just going to take a little bit of that raw umber colour again, mix it with a little bit of raw sienna, just creating this dark colour. And what we're going to do is just, again, just wash it over that background, not being like super precise, just shoving it over the top. Take a little bit of a lighter colour, put some of that lighter colour in, just everywhere, just like that. We'll take a little bit more brown, maybe near the top, put some of this brown in, a little bit underneath the body, quite dark this one, quite substantial. Take a little bit of the raw umber, that reddy colour. I might actually change my brush a little bit here, get a smaller brush. So I'm going to use a filbert, I'm going to use just a small flat brush, just like this. Just going to add a few more little bits of this reddy colour onto my background, just randomly, just like this, just bringing it up and down, almost like grass, all the way across, just these random marks. Then I'm going to get some yellow ochre. I just start to put a little bit of this yellow ochre in as well, just in some places. Just like that. And then again, just going to take my cloth close to the top and just start to put in some of these abstract marks, just building on the layers that I've already put down. I just find it helps. Just make that piece look a little bit softer, removes a few of those brush marks, and has this cool textured effect, which I really, really like. I really like how that's looking so far. What I'm going to do next is bring that toothbrush back, get some of my raw umber paint, so some of the dark, and then just flick it on. Just like that. Going to give that a wash, get some of my burnt sienna now, a little bit more orange. Again, lots of water, lots of paint, and just start flicking some of this orange, this burnt sienna colour. And just flick it on. No, not at all, Kevin. I agree. Like, Amber's paintings are absolutely fantastic. She's done some fantastic sketches for the Sketchathon. She's done an otter, I think it was an otter. She's done a baby okapi, and she's done a, what else has she done? Otter, okapi, and what was the other one? What was the other one? I should know this. I know which ones she's got still to come, but I can't remember which ones she's done, because we talked about which ones we were doing. She's done an otter, okapi, and a wild dog. I should have got that so far. And as far as I know, 2 of them have sold. I think the wild dog and the otter sold the last time I checked, which is absolutely fantastic. but maybe more have sold now because they are amazing. So if you haven't seen them yet, you should definitely go and check out some of Amber's work. She's got a couple of pieces on the Sketchathon, but her Instagram as well, which is also linked in the description. Go and give that a check out if you've not seen it already. Amber's a much more realistic painter than me. I like adding this abstract texture and this abstract marks to it, whereas Amber likes to create these really intricate, really realistic, like photorealistic images, and they are absolutely amazing. Oh, fantastic. Have all three sold? That would be brilliant. I know she'll be over the moon. Right. Let's now just put the shadows in to this wild dog. So I'm just taking some raw umber. I'm just blocking in some of the areas where I want those shadows to be. Just putting these darker layers. Hi, Harry. Thank you very much. I don't know why the Okapi's still available. The Okapi's my favourite one. I think the Okapi's fantastic. Just putting a little wash on this, just so I can work on a darker wash later on. This leg in as well. Good morning, Angela. Well, it's afternoon for me. Where are you from, Angela? Oh, well, thank you very much for subscribing. I hope you enjoy all the videos. Hope you find them helpful. Ah, very nice. Very nice. I drove through Arizona once. I did a year abroad at the University of Kansas, and for a trip we went to Vegas for a few days, and we drove through Arizona to get there, I think. Or we drove through Arizona at some point on a trip while we were there. I'm just gonna mute the chat for a second, or mute the sound, just so I can hair dry this again. There we go. Yes, yeah, it was. It was really good. Like we saw like loads of shows and stuff. Went to a couple of casinos. It was it was an amazing time. I went for 5 days. I was already in America, in Kansas, and then one of my friends from home, so back in England, I turned 21 in September. He turned 21 a month later in October. So for his 21st birthday, he flew out, and I surprised him by meeting him in Vegas, which was really, really cool. I think we stayed in the Venetian Hotel, which was mental. Like all the like canals on the second floor of this hotel. Really cool. Um, I don't have a lioness prepared, Harry, but I will try and paint a lioness for another video. I'm gonna try and do more of these little sketches as proper videos on YouTube. So I'll make sure for the first one that I do, I will get a little lioness sketch on there for you so that you can see how it's done. Oh yeah, I love painting with the toothbrush. Um, I'm in the middle of a quite a big 60 by 80 centimeter snow leopard painting that I started the underpainting by just like flicking paint on. So I didn't really use any brushes. I just flicked paint onto the surface and created the whole sort of underpainting just using a toothbrush. And it was like really cool. I've got the video of it on my YouTube channel if you've seen it. The actual finished painting, I'm nowhere near completed. Um, but it was really nice and really different using the toothbrush, something that I'd never done before. Yeah, quite a lot of people have found my channel through the tiger videos. It's been quite a popular video, my tiger video. Either painting tigers or painting fur. That's where most people find my channel. But I do have some portrait stuff as well, and a little bit of landscape stuff. I've got all sorts, loads of different art tips and little tutorials and time lapses and things. So I think I've got like 150 different videos or something. So you should have plenty to watch. Right, starting to build up some of those darks now. Hey, I think what I'm gonna do is try and just build up a little bit of form now, just using this angled brush. I'm not gonna put any of the patterns of the wild dog in yet. Just gonna build up some basic form. So we're gonna use a little bit of raw sienna, I think mixed with a tiny bit of buff titanium paint. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a bit of burnt sienna as well, just to make it a little bit more orange. And then we're going to just start to build up some of this fur colour. So just trying to like follow the shape and the direction of the fur, starting to build it up. And just like before, trying to give it some form. I always work my darkest colours first, and then building my lightest colours over the top. I think for this one, do you know how you were saying before, Kevin, about glazing some of the darks back in at the end? I think I'm definitely going to do some of the glazing of some of the shadows in at the end of this painting. So you'll see that technique as well. Hopefully the stream is holding up okay. The weather's getting a bit rubbish where I am. A little bit rainy, a little bit windy. So hopefully it's not affecting the internet too much. Okay, let's go with a bit of a lighter layer now. So now we're going to take just some of our raw sienna, add a touch of cadmium yellow to that mix, and add a tiny little bit of white just to make it a little bit more opaque. We still want it quite saturated. We're just going to repeat the process, just following the direction of that fur, just like this. Just trying to really build up some of that fur. This angle brush is really good because it's quite old, so it leaves these sort of frayed edges. It's not a nice clean stroke, which is really good when you just want to very, very quickly give the impression of fur. Rather than like painting every individual strand, you can use this and it just speeds up the process so much. All great ideas, Harry. I'll give that a look at as well. I'll see if I can find a nice reference photo to use. And now I'm going to go a little bit more yellow, mixed with a touch of raw umber, just to grade off a little bit. And then add some white to that mix. Trying to get it a little bit whiter, a little bit lighter than the colour that we've just used. And again, we're just going to repeat that process. Just putting in these little strands of fur, or clumps of fur really. Just trying to give the impression of detail. Okay, starting to get somewhere a little bit. Obviously, there's no patterns yet. It doesn't look anything like a painted dog just yet, but it will get there, I promise. Just have to stick with me. A little bit more white here. Definitely some more light there. A little touch of this. A few little bits here and there. Okay, so starting to get somewhere. So what I'm going to do now is just use my small detail brush again, and now I want some really, really pale orange. Even lighter than that colour that we've just put down. And again, exactly the same thing now, but just being a little bit more detailed. We're just putting some of these little strands of fur down. Just like this. Hopefully you can see that nice and clearly, see what I'm doing. If you need to, be able to replicate it in your own paintings. Light fur there. Blend that back a little bit. Couple of little tufts on the back leg. Just check my reference photo again. Let's have this a little bit in some light, just catching a little bit of light, just like that. Oh, I'd love to see it. If you want to tag me in it, just tag me on Instagram. I'm sure you're going to post it on Instagram. But yeah, I'd love to see Jaguar. Love to see the finished outcome. So just tag me or tag Studio Wildlife on Instagram. Show me. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, I've just done my big lion painting in oils, which I just posted a video of, and it took ages. And it's just nice to do something like this every now and then. Just spend an hour or two just doing a little sketch. But they are really, really effective, and you can learn loads of things, and you can try loads of new techniques. And it just makes like your life a little bit easier. Sometimes it's nice doing a small one of these, small little study before you actually do a big painting. Because you can like get all the mistakes out the way, get all the things that you want to change, make all your corrections on a small scale. And then when it comes to actually painting the finished big painting, you've already made those mistakes. Sometimes I'll do them digitally as well. I really, really like digital painting on my iPad. Yeah, that's my biggest struggle as well, really. The colours. Um, Amber's like Amber's colours are fantastic. The way that she does them, but it's always been something that I struggle with. Getting the colours. Let's have a look. Just having a look, seeing if I can find your Jaguar now. I cannot. It's probably tagged on my Studio Wildlife account. Uh, Hi Andy, I'm using acrylics for these just because they're nice little quick sketches, so I want to be able to work in layers and build up the colours on top of each other. Oh, well, thank you very much. I tell Amber that she's better than me every single day. Okay, final couple of little highlights for this bit. And then we're going to move on to some of the patterns in the fur, I think. I think we've got this. Regular fur, just sort of to the best place it's going to be. In fact, we'll put some of this on the tail because he's not got a tail yet. That's in a little tail. There we go. And then again, a couple more of these highlights. Okay, bye, Sophie. Enjoy the school run. I will be, obviously, this will be recorded, so you'll be able to watch it if you don't get back in time. I personally use quite thin paints, but heavy body acrylics are fine as well. I would just use them quite thinly. I just thin them with a lot of water. And heavy body acrylics tend to have a little bit more pigment, so they can actually be a little bit more, sort of like a little bit higher quality than some of the thinner acrylics. Which is really good for if you want like solid, opaque colours. But I like, or the way that I work is by building up lots and lots of thin layers on top of each other. So heavy body acrylics don't really tend to that. But some of my more like abstracty pieces that you might have seen, they are done with much thicker paint. So the heavy body acrylics would be better for those. I think with heavy body acrylics as well, you can mix them a little bit more like oils. I don't think they stay dry for anywhere near as long, but they stay wet for a little bit longer than these thin washes, which means you can blend them a little bit easier. Let's try and refine this face a little bit more. A little bit of fur on the face. No problem. Yeah, just feel free to ask questions, just chat. I'm really enjoying having people to talk to while I do this. Okay. I think what I'm going to do now is add in some of the darker fur. So I'm going to take some black and a little bit of raw umber. Just create a very, very dark brown colour. And I'm just going to start to draw in and just glaze some of the darker colours. So like on this leg, have a nice black dark shadow. Some of this darker fur. And hopefully build up a little bit more form while I do it, because it's still looking a little bit flat, in my opinion. Okay, starting to get a bit better. Um, I never really created a practice schedule as such. I just tried to create something every single day. Even if it is just a small little sketch like this, I think getting into the habit of making every day is very good. I think Instagram sort of helped with that because I felt kind of under pressure to put something out there every day. um, well, I'm glad I can answer your questions, and I'm glad you're asking questions. Uh, it makes it a little bit better for me rather than just sitting here painting in silence. I what did you say? What you feel like on a daily basis? Yeah, pretty much. Um, like I just for originals like this, I just paint what I feel, and most of just developing my paintings over the last sort of like 3 or 4 years. I've just been trying to create content for Instagram, really, just things that I want to paint, I want to do. I thought other people would enjoy as well. Um, it's just sort of grown from there to the YouTube channel, and I think a lot of my subscribers on the YouTube channel, I think, are very much here for wildlife art because what I noticed when I started my Instagram is that when I painted wildlife, I got loads of likes, loads of comments, loads of interactions. So that sort of like turned me more towards painting wildlife um, rather than painting people, which I used to paint people quite a lot. And then same with the YouTube channel. I spent ages the other day. I don't know if you see my latest video, which was how to paint an eye in acrylics. And that video just hasn't had the reception that I thought it would have. It's a human eye, not an animal eye, so it's not wildlife. But a lot of the techniques that I talked about in that video apply directly to wildlife painting as well. But it's just not had the reception that I'd hoped for. Um, but yeah, if you haven't watched that, it would be very helpful to me if you could go and check out the How to Paint an Eye video at some point and let me know what you think. I just thought it'd be a nice video because a lot of people start off painting and drawing, and me too. I started off drawing eyes, really, just doodling them on sketchbooks and things. It was one of the first things that I learned how to draw properly. So I thought it would be beneficial to people as well to start learning how I paint my eyes and learn how the techniques that I've picked up through my wildlife painting have helped me be able to paint an eye, and how the techniques used in painting that eye are transferable to other mediums or other subjects. Hmm, I agree. Um, I've done baby animals before, and yeah, baby animals always do really well. So do lions and tigers, and so does any post where I have got a sketchbook and I'm sat by a swimming pool. Um, I'm actually doing my very first art fair next or in the middle of this month. So I'm doing Manchester Art Fair, which is quite a big art fair. It's quite an expensive art fair to be part of. So I hope it goes well. But it is my very first art fair. So I've got a feeling it's either going to go really well or it's not going to go very well at all. And I'm hoping it's the really well bit, but I'm a little bit nervous about it because I've never done one before. I've exhibited in sort of small group exhibitions like Goredale, which is exhibition wildlife art. That is at Goredale Garden Centre, which is kind of like a small art fair over a weekend of just wildlife art. But the first big art fair that I'm ever going to be doing is in a couple of weeks on the 19th of November. in Manchester at Manchester Central. If anyone is from Manchester or from the north of England or anywhere in England and would like to just travel up and see it or see some of my work in person, potentially even buy some of my work in person, that would be even better. But yeah, me and Amber are both doing that art fair for the first time. So I will let you know when we've done it and see how it goes and see whether I'm going to do one again. Oh, fantastic. Um, if there's ever an exhibition on in Hampshire, I will be sure to let you know. Oh, it's starting to look a bit more painted doggy now. Um, it depends on the day. Uh, Ideally, I will try and paint for at least 3 or 4 hours. Some days I'll paint for more. Like today, I'll probably be painting for 6 or 7 hours while I'm doing these live streams. But some days I'm just too busy with teaching. Like I've got all my schoolwork, I have all my biology stuff to sort out, so I don't have time to paint as much as I'd like to. But usually I try to get some form of art done for at least an hour a day, at the very least. If I was sort of beginning an art journey or had more free time on my hands, I'd definitely paint for a lot longer. Because obviously, the more practice you get, the better at it you'll be. But you don't have to be painting for hours and hours and hours every single day to get better at art and to produce good artwork. Like, I know artists out there that I've spoken to that are absolutely incredible artists, and they will paint for 2 or 3 hours a day, and that's it. They physically can't paint for any longer just because they get bored or they get tired. I could paint all day. I could make things all day, every day. I absolutely love just being creative, no matter what it is. That's why I like the YouTube and stuff. Um, so the YouTube was getting very time consuming. So last year, I set up the YouTube channel in lockdown, and then which was great because obviously we all had loads of free time. I was still doing a little bit of teaching, but not much. But then when the schools opened again and I came back to working full time at the school last year, just teaching the biology was taking up quite a lot of my time because it's A level biology, so you can't just turn up. You've got to know your stuff and be prepared. And it was just taking a lot of time, and I wasn't really going to bed. So for almost a year, I was sort of going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning for work, and it just wasn't feasible. So this year, I decided I'm going to try and put some time into going full time with the YouTube, posting twice a week. Obviously, if I wasn't posting twice a week or even once a week, if I was posting once a month, it would have been feasible to do it with the full time job. But I just enjoyed putting this content out there as much as possible. Hi, Art by Me. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining. Um, but yeah, so I probably spend. I mean, my eye video that I did the other day. It took me 3 hours to paint and then another almost 4 hours to edit. I put 2 videos together. I did a Patreon video and the YouTube video, so it took about 4 hours to edit them both. It was about an hour for the Patreon video to edit and about 3 hours for the YouTube video, just because I had to like voice over it. I wanted to make sure it was a really good, like well-made video. I wrote a script and really tried to get as much information to the viewers as possible. Um, which is ironic because it is now probably my worst video of the last 10 at least that I've put out. It's not doing very well. Whereas other videos where I've literally just spent half an hour putting them together, literally voiced over it while I was watching it for the first time, they've done really, really well. So it's all very hit and miss. It really, like, it can vary how long it takes, the editing, but it does take up a lot of time. But thankfully now I've gone part-time, so I'm only working 2 days a week in the school, which means I've got more time to be painting, more time to be editing and creating. That's what this year is all about, really. I'm just trying to build up that YouTube channel, try and get as many videos out there, try and really improve my video editing ability, my painting, and my live streaming ability. So obviously this is my first, well, second live stream technically now, because I did one earlier this morning. So I just want to try and get better at this, better at producing the content, making videos a little bit more enjoyable, like nicer to watch, and just more like informative and just a better quality. I'm always trying to increase the quality of whatever it is I'm making, whether it's a painting, whether it's a video, like always trying to push increases in the quality of things. Has anyone else got any other questions? Just keep asking away. So we're kind of getting there a little bit now. I'm going to add some of the whiter marks now. So for these creamy little bits, thank you, Kevin. These creamier little bits, I'm just using some white mixed with a little bit of not burnt umber. I'm mixing the white with a little bit of buff titanium. Just going to start putting in some of these whiter bits. So just some of these patches of lighter white fur. I do think teaching and standing in front of a class for the last sort of 5 years has definitely helped with my ability to make YouTube videos and talk on a camera. I think without the experience teaching, I don't think I would have been able to. I wouldn't have had the courage to make the YouTube videos and talk on camera like this. I'd have been way too nervous to do it. So it's really helped with that confidence being a teacher, which is really helpful for things like this. Yeah, so there you go. If you struggle with your confidence and you're struggling to sort of do public speaking, go and do a couple of years of teaching and it'll sort you right out. Oh, well, thank you very much, Debbie. I'm really glad that you found the channel helpful, and it's amazing that we've got another wildlife artist now that's starting, and I'd love to see some of your work. If you do have an Instagram or anything, just tag the Studio Wildlife page or use the hashtag Studio Wildlife, and I check it every now and then. So I'd love to see some of your work. Just share it with me. I love seeing what people create, like what they use the videos for. It's just fantastic. Sometimes I think I would have made a good art teacher, but I did a biology degree, so I was a biology teacher. A little bit of lighter fur up here. Let's put a little bit of detail in this tail. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use this same colour, even though it's really light. I'm just going to put it in some areas just to establish a little bit more fur detail. And then I'm going to do some glazing over the top just to knock it back into those shadowy areas later on. Let's put some of these fur strands on. Light over here. Light here. Getting a little bit more painted doggy. Right, let's add a little bit of shadow in that lighter hair. So we want the shadow to be quite blue, really. So I'm going to just mix up this blue glaze and just add some blue. Hi, Jean. Oh, I already talk in my sleep. I talk absolute nonsense in my sleep. I've painted one horse in my life. It's more of an abstract horse. It is up on the Studio Wildlife website. Amber has painted horses, and there is a video of Amber painting a horse on the channel as well. It is something that I absolutely hate painting. I cannot stand drawing horses, painting horses. I am awful at painting horses. I just can never get them in proportion. I've drawn a couple of horses as part of like commissions before, and I've also done a sort of sketch from life because Amber has a horse that she rides at home. So when she was riding one day, I got some charcoal and sketched her and the horse together as they were riding, and that was really fun. It was really difficult, and it wasn't like a masterpiece, but I really enjoyed doing it. I don't think it's necessarily the short hair. I just find horses are incredibly oddly proportioned. Like when you're painting, they are one of the hardest animals to paint in the correct proportions. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're just, if we've got a tendency to think horses look a little bit different than what they do. But if you have ever looked at like historical paintings and you actually look at people's paintings of horses, like in these old master paintings where they've not had an image to copy and they've done everything from life and from studies, they look absolutely nothing like horses. So even like the old masters struggled with horses when you didn't have a photo in front of you. So I think we've got preconceived, like subconscious perceptions of what a horse looks like that mess with our ability to paint those horses. Really weird. short hair, for short hair, instead of painting each individual hair, you just want nice soft clumps of the hair instead. Um, and that will completely change the way they look. You want the short hair to look a little bit softer and a little bit more velvety looking, and that'll make it look much more realistic. Let's add a little bit of a almost purpley glaze to the back of the legs, just to darken them a little bit, but just add a few other colours in as well. Just knock some of this into areas of the painting. Don't worry, so are a lot of people's horses. Do you have the short-haired Jack Russells or the long-haired Jack Russells? Ah, oh, they're even harder to paint. Yeah, my advice for sort of dogs with short hair is move away from painting all the details. Um, just make them look soft, make them look fluffy. Because at the end of the day, it's a dog. You want it to look kind of soft and fluffy. You want a nice, happy portrait of your dog. Get the colours right, get the tones right, and it'll still look realistic without being like overly detailed. I think I just need a few more highlights just in some of this fur over here. Hi, Daphne. Nice to meet you. Sometimes, oh, if I could just go big and bold with every painting that I could do, I'd be so happy. Like, I love painting big, and I love painting with like big, bold movements and abstract shapes, and I like making a mess, and I just can't really do that in my current setup because I'm just painting in a bedroom, so I can't really get super messy with anything. But I am having a studio built literally as we speak. It's getting built in the back garden. Um, so I should be able to experiment a little bit more with my pictures now, go a little bit bigger, a little bit bolder. I really want to experiment more with oils because I'll be in more of a well ventilated space. And yeah, I can't wait. I think in a couple of months that'll be ready and I'll be able to just experiment and just grow and learn more things. It's not absolutely huge, but it's going to be big enough for what I need it for. I can't wait. Cannot wait for it. Okay. Yeah, it's just a garden building. I am very lucky. So the camera that I'm using is a Canon 90D. I'm not sure how it looks on the screen. Like, I'm not sure if it's HD or not for you guys. Oh, it is insulated. It's got like 4-inch thick insulation. It's got loads of insulation sheets in it. Um, I was putting the floor or helping to put the floor down the other day and all the insulation, and it's going to be toasty in there. So the camera I'm using is a Canon 90D. I've just got it hooked up with a micro USB cable, and I'm just using the Canon webcam utility. So I've not had to hook anything up or do anything special. I've literally just plugged my camera into my computer through a USB cable, and then it's allowed my camera to be used as a webcam, which is really good. The only thing I can't do with it is I can't have like two cameras going at the same time. So I can only show you what I'm painting. I can't show you like me as I'm painting it, or I can't show you my palette. And so that's probably something that I'm going to look into. Maybe have a couple more cameras so that you can actually see me as well as I paint, or you can see my palettes, or you can see like my reference photo. But that's something that I need to look into doing. Oh yeah, I know. I want like little sort of vertical shelves putting in so that I can lean oil paintings up without them touching each other. Because at the minute, they're just all hung up around the room. They get dog hairs all over them, and it'd be nice just to have that designated space where I can just store them and keep them safe, keep them dry, and then hopefully sell them. Hopefully they're not there forever. I think I've got a bit carried away with talking with this one and completely lost track of time. This one has taken a lot longer than an hour. I think if I had a house just designated as a studio, it wouldn't be big enough. Right, I think I'm going to give it an eye, work on the background a little bit, and then call this one done. And then it's a choice now. Do you want to see a wolf, which is pretty much similar to what I've done already, or a brown bear, which again is very similar to what I've done already? Wolf. Oh, cool. Okay, I can do that. Um, I've never really thought about the brushes that I use to glaze. I just use the brushes that I usually use. They're all soft synthetic brushes though, so that might make a difference. Like if you're using like thick hog bristle brushes, you won't be able to glaze as well because all the brush strokes will be in. Um, it might just be that you need a few layers for your glazing. That's causing it to look a little bit streaky. Put a little blue highlight. Let's put a little bit of work on the nose as well, just here. And get a little bit of white and attempt to put a tiny little highlight in this eye. It'll do. It'll be fine. Okay, then just for the base, just like before, I want this sort of like dusty looking background or floor, just so I can get rid of some of these stubs. So I'm just going to take a little bit of some raw umber first, and just do a little bit of like a shadowy glaze down here. Thanks, Gene. Nice talking to you. Okay, now I'm going to use a bit of buff titanium and just start putting a little bit of dust everywhere. The others, where it's sort of like floor, I was more dabbing it. This one, I'm more just sort of like brushing it around a little bit, just twirling it around, just to create a few more like solid sections. I think even though the dog was sort of like stood up, I think adding this little bit of dust just adds that little bit of motion to it a little bit more. Makes it look like it's walking somewhere a little bit quicker, which I quite like. So there's the dust. I'm also going to add a few little strands of grass as well. So I'm going to take some yellow ochre and some buff titanium, and just using a round brush, just going to add in some little, very, very hard to see strands of grass. Just knocking around on the floor. Just abstracting it up a little bit. I'm also going to just adjust the head slightly and just deviate from my reference photo slightly. I'm just going to put a kind of purpley looking light just on this edge, just to separate it a little bit from the background. Okay, I think that one is now finished, unless anyone can see anything that's blatantly standing out that I'm missing. Just going to sign it just with a little bit of raw umber paint, just down in the bottom corner, just out the way. Just like that. And then this one is pretty much finished. I'll just take a picture so that it can be put on the website. Let me try and take a better picture than that, because that was not a very good picture. Okay, that is a little bit better. So I'm going to get that up on the website. And again, if anyone would like to purchase this and contribute to the charities, you can buy it on the Artists for Painted Dogs website, which is down in the description below. Okay, that is now being sent. Oh no, it is very hard getting good photos of paintings, especially when they're so small like this, because you can't really see it on the screen. But when I take a photo, all the tiny little bits of the grains of the canvas, they show through and catch the light, and it's just a nightmare to film, a nightmare to take a photo of, like a proper pain. Okay, let's move it to the side, and we will start on the next one, which is going to be the wolf. So there is our wolf. Pop that to the side. And again, I'm just going to clean my palette, just scrape away some of this dry paint. Start fresh with each one, because my arms are getting covered in paint from where I'm leaning on my table and touching the wet paint. So I need to clean it off to get rid of it. One thing that I have found really, really helpful with photographing things is I've got some now big studio lights, which are from Fovitech. They're about £150. I use them for my painting, I use them for my filming, but I can position those and use those so I don't get any glare or sort of light shining on it. It's quite good and useful for taking photos of things. But what I did when I first started out was I just go outside on a sunny day and just put it out of the sun a little bit. So just put it in the shade, behind a wall or something, and take a picture then, because then it's not too bright, but it's also bright enough that the ambient light around is allowing your camera to pick up all the details. Obviously, that's not ideal in winter, but in summer, you can just take your pictures outside, just as long as you're in the shade when you're taking those pictures. Okay. Is it not just wet always in South Wales? Yeah, the ones that I get are the Fovitec Studio Pros, I think, or the Fovitec Studio Lighting. They're a bit bulky. They are massive, so they do take up a lot of room. So if you've not got much space, then they aren't the best ones to get, really. But if you have got the space for it, then get them. I kind of regret getting them just because they're so big and so bulky, and they take up a lot of space in my room. But hopefully now I've got my studio, that shouldn't be an issue. So just the same as a polar bear, I'm going to start trying to get this like icy blue background for my wolf. I'm going to have it stood on top of like a mountain with some snow. So I'm just going to outline my wolf first of all. Just cutting around my drawing, just like you'd do if you were painting a wall. Say even more transferable skills. And then let's just whack some of this blue all around the canvas. No, not quite good for a corner in a box room, unfortunately. One thing that could be, do you know how you can get like the lights that are sort of like a stand, and they've got like 3 different lights on each one that can all move around? And they're a lot smaller. They're not as bright, but if you get 2 of those and place them at like 45 degrees to your picture and like position the lights, you can adjust them so you can't get any glare. And then at least they can form part of your like house as well, rather than these big studio lights that I've got, which are absolutely hideous. Right, let's get this looking a little bit more like clouds. Okay, I think for this one, the light is going to be sort of coming from this direction. So I want this side of his body to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to put some dark colours on this background. A really nice, intense blue colour. And just wash it over the top. Put some under his body as well, maybe a little bit just at the back of him there. just like that. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Let me think. Oh yeah, definitely. If you've got um, one for, you'll have your camera sort of in the middle, and then you'll have a light at 45 degrees shining that way, and then another light at 45 degrees shining that way, and that should help. A little bit dark over here. Am I going to do mountains? Should I paint mountains? No, I want to quite quick. So we're just going to keep it nice and simple. Let's get a little bit of a lighter blue now. Gonna need some more white paint in a minute. Quite watered down. Just try and get a few, little bit more of these abstracty marks just here and there, not everywhere, just a few. Okay, and then I'm going to use my toothbrush again and just flick. I really like flicking. Gonna stick with it for a little bit longer. May as well make all my paintings match. Do a bit of flicks. Okay, there's some dark flicks. Okay. Then we shall add a few lighter flicks on there as well. Actually going to add a couple of just some raw sienna flicks as well, just because I think the blue and the orange will really complement each other. There we go. And then finally, just clean this off. Just want some white flicks on that background. To lighten it all up a little bit. Okay. So then again, same thing, just going to use a detailed brush. This time I'm going to do it in a kind of bluey colour. So I'm going to get my detail brush, some black, and just start tracing around my outline, just trying to really solidify that sketch. So I'm currently, or my dad is currently, literally as we speak now, building a studio, and it will be ready in a couple of months. So I will be doing a little studio tour. I'm filming sort of like some of the process of building it. I'll show you what it looks like when it's all finished. So at the minute I'm just painting in a bedroom, and I have been for the last sort of like 5 or 6 years, like in my bedroom, so in the one that I actually sleep in. So it's always a bit of a mess. And it'd be nice to finally have something that's an actual proper studio, that's a designated space for creating paintings and artworks, and hopefully it'll make a difference to what I'm making. Yeah, I am so excited. I cannot wait for it to be finished. Like, I cannot wait to get in it. Cannot wait to can't wait to buy loads of new art stuff, to fill it. Can't like I'm gonna have a big sort of wall easel in one corner for standing, and then I'm also gonna have a desk easel as well, or like a flat desk that can rotate up and down, so I can do my pastels and I can do like top down filming. It's just gonna be so good. It'll also be nicer, I think, on the YouTube and the Patreon because I won't have all the like clutter, like all this sort of in the background. It'll just be a nice, neat, clean space. So it won't detract from any of the pictures, won't detract from any of the filming. Hopefully I'll be able to produce some nicer videos. And then hopefully I'm gonna have my live stream set up. So I'll be able to live stream more often for the Patreon. Yeah, the clutter doesn't really bother me too much. It's just sort of the videos. It'd be nicer if they were a little bit cleaner, a little bit more professional looking. Oh, well, thank you very much. Okay, I think I can just. Oh yeah, I cannot wait to be able to go completely overboard buying supplies. Like it's just going to be like its own little shop. There'll be that many things in there. I think that's pretty much it for the little sketch. Again, I'll just quickly just pause the sound. Oh god, I spend so much money in Hobbycraft. It's unreal. So much money. Hobbycraft and the range. Okay, I'm going to give myself an hour to do this, and then I think that'll be the last one. I don't think we'll get to the grizzly bear. I think I'll keep it at 6, and I'll save the grizzly bear for another YouTube video. Well, the good thing is, it's me and Amber, so we both like to spend hours in there. So we're lucky in that way, in that we've got each other to go and spend hours in art shops with. Yeah, don't we all? I can literally go into an art shop and spend hours, hours in there. Like, we went the other day to get some paintbrushes, and I came back with an entire set of these Posca paint pens. I have never used these before in my entire life. I had no idea what I was going to use them for, but I came back with a set of them anyway. Just giving it a little wash, just so I can get rid of some of that white colour. How can your partner not get excited? It's paint. It's the best thing in the world. Right, I'm just going to pause the sound again. Oh, I've done exactly the same thing, spent loads, and then it actually turns out to be the cheap, simple stuff that makes you get better. Like when I was younger, I bought loads of fancy pencils, loads of fancy pens, and the thing that I drew the most with, and the thing that I actually found improved my drawing the most, was drawing with just a biro pen, just a regular ballpoint pen, and it just improved my drawing ability so much using that pen that all the other stuff was essentially just a waste. I've never really been too fussy with my paints that I get. That's the one thing that I've not been. I've always just bought the cheapest paint that I could find, or that like to a sort of limit. Like I wouldn't buy the like Hobbycraft own brand paints, but I don't mind like student quality paints are fine for the style that I paint in. So I've never really had loads and loads of different brands of paint to try and find out which is best. I've always just used whatever I can get my hands on. Although the one that I use now, the one that I think is the best sort of low end paint are these abstract acrylic paints. Really, really love the feel and the texture and the consistency of these. And that is my favourite white to use as well. They're so affordable. So they're a very high quality paint, but they're very affordable paints. And I really like the pouches that they come in as well. Makes it really easy for storage. If anyone from Senalier from like is out there and watching and wants to send me a load of free paints, please feel free to do so. That would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, Liquitex are very expensive. They're very good paints, but the abstract ones are alright. They're not like super cheap. Um, like when they're on offer, I bought them the first time when they were on offer, and they were £2 for each colour. The small pots, not the big ones. Um, when they're not on offer, I can get them for about £4 a colour, which is quite cheap for a paint that is that good a quality. Like, it's really saturated, really pigmented. And they are like really nice to work with. I got sent some Arteza paints as well. Um, they're all right to use. They are very very colourful and they are very vibrant paints. So if you do like doing like big bold colours, like the abstract range, not the abstract, the Arteza paints are really good for that, and they're really cheap as well. They're a good affordable painting. The only thing I found with those was they sort of had this like plasticky feel to the paints and to the painting when it was finished, which is fine if you want like a glossy painting. Um, but I just wasn't prepared for it to be so glossy when I use them. But they are another good introductory brand of paint that I use. Okay, so some of that orange I flicked into the background, you can see is now tying into some of the fur colour that I'm putting in. Again, just like the other ones, I'm just working from my darkest colours first, and then I'll build up my lighter colours on top to start to establish the form. Yeah, I like the metallic ones. There's a lot of the metallic colours in the set that I got sent, um, and I use the metallic ones quite a lot. There's a really, really nice sort of like metallic blue. It's like a pearl blue, I think it's called. It's a lovely colour. I'm just sort of covering the canvas again with this light browny colour. Get some on that tail. Gonna try and speed up a little bit as well. Try and go a bit faster, so I'm not spending another hour and a bit on the same picture. Okay, let's now lighten this up a little bit. Let's get a nice lighter grey. Oh, I need some white actually. Speaking of the white, let's put some of the Arteza white out again. Not the Arteza, the abstract Sennelier white. And let's create a nice sort of lighter bluey colour, lighter blue-grey. And start to just build up some of this fur texture on top of the wolf. Hi everyone that is joining the stream. Feel free to ask any questions. Introduce yourself, say hello. Oh, I don't think I've ever painted for so long in this position. I'm starting to get like, my neck is starting to hurt. I think I will be, after finishing this painting, I will be doing many, many stretches. I should have warmed up before I started painting. Okay, let's start getting even lighter now. A little bit more of a lighter orange. So I'm going to take some raw sienna, mix it with that little bit of blue, create a lighter grey, and we'll start to put some of this lighter grey fur in. Still just working our shadows, not our highlights. Hopefully, starting to look a little bit more furry now. What paintings is everyone working on at the minute? Anything new? Anything different? Very nice. A full crop of a lion, or just the face, or all the body? Do it. Do it. Do a tiger. I recommend finding a reference photo from Unsplash. Some fantastic tigers on there, or Pixabay, and then painting from the reference. I've never used gouache either. Um, that is the one medium that I've not tried, I think, or one of the one mediums that I've not tried. Oh well, Angela, make sure to watch my how to paint a tiger eye video. I've got a full video showing how to paint the eyes, or how I paint it. Oh, fantastic! Which lion one was it? It's starting to get a little bit fluffier. Ah, the running one. Yeah, the one that's running towards you. Yeah, that was a really tricky one to paint. Yeah, I actually sort of like finished that painting like 3 times before I was happy with it. It was like I finished it, it sort of had a black background, and then I think that's where the video ends, on the black background. But then I decided to do a blue background on it instead, and it looked a little bit like a pom pom. So I adjusted all the like the mane, and then I wasn't happy with the background again. So then I started putting some more grass into it, and by the end, I was really happy with how it looked. It just took a lot of attempts to get it to look, or get it to a place where I was happy with. It took a lot of work, that one. Never complain about having too many pet portraits. I wish I had some pet portraits. Hi, Anupa. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining. Hope you're well, and thank you very much. I know exactly what you mean. I have like paintings from like a year ago that I've got planned that I've just not had the time to get around to, or I found something else that I need to do that I want to do. I spent ages meticulously planning these paintings, even some sketches, and finding reference photos and editing reference photos, and just never actually painted them. Just because things come up, like you lose the interest to do that painting. You forget about them sometimes. It's mad. Oh, nice. I've never painted on a breadboard before. Do you have to like prime it or prep it before you paint on it, or can you just paint straight on top? Starting to get a little bit furrier now, which is good. Oh, nice. I can think of a good Pixabay photo of a lion lying down. It's like a lion lying down that was sort of like looking to the right. And if it's that one that I'm thinking of, that is a fantastic reference photo. The light on it is absolutely amazing. I've literally spent hours. I have actually looked at every single photo of a lion there is on Pixabay looking for reference photos. There isn't a single lion picture on there that I have not seen. Like sometimes choosing the reference photo can take longer than actually painting the painting. I'm just adding a little bit more white, taking a little bit of blue just to create a nice sort of light grey colour. I'm going to start adding in a few more of the lighter hairs now. Let's just adjust my reference photo. Yeah, well, sometimes you can't find a reference photo that you like, so it's almost like a mad panic to try and get something that you can use. I think it was for a demonstration that I was doing. I was trying to find a nice photo to use. If you're on my Patreon channel, it was the photo for the charcoal demonstration that I did, and it took me ages to find a photo that I liked. Like, Pixabay is just a website um, that you can get copyright-free images from that you can use as references for your paintings. Because we shouldn't really be using just like Google Images for your references because they are copyright protected, whereas the Pixabay ones have been put up onto Pixabay, or Unsplash is another website where you can use the pictures there as reference photos for paintings. But it's a really good site, and there's some really, really lovely pictures on there. I reckon I probably look through those websites, Pixabay and Unsplash, probably 3 times a week, looking at what's new, looking at uh, different reference photos, just trying to get ideas for things. Another good website to use is wildlifereferencephoto.com. You have to pay to use those photos though. It's about $5 or something like that a photo. But there are some really good photos to use on there. Some of the paintings that I do, I will use wildlife reference photos. So for example, the very first tiger painting that I did, that's sort of like a tiger face looking to the right, that is a wildlife reference photo. So that one can't be just used by anyone. You have to pay for the copyright essentially to use that one. Whereas things like these, because they're on Splash, anyone can use the references. Which is why now, like with all my YouTube videos, I am trying more to either use the Unsplash and Pixabay, the copyright-free photos, so that anyone can try and follow along and copy the pictures if they want to, or at least tell you that you can't copy this picture without buying the reference. Oh, nice. That's pretty much how I prime my wooden boards as well. PVA glue, acid-free PVA glue, and then gesso, and then give them a little sand to smooth them. And you're just sort of putting some little tufty bits of fur in. Hopefully it's starting to get a little bit better. Gonna have a nice blue shadow there. There'll be a little bit of light up here. We'll adjust the ears to put more light in. So light on the face. Yeah, sometimes like I try and edit my photos on Photoshop a little bit before I use them, because I do like working from a reference photo and like being able to stick to the reference photo and have it all there. So I'll use Photoshop or my iPad sometimes to like edit it to the way that I like it, so that I can just copy the reference. But I know what you mean with like photos, like with lines. Sometimes it's very difficult that the light does just completely get rid of all the details in the main. And like when you're thinking about your paintings and stuff, the light is where you would actually see most of the details. It doesn't matter so much if the shadows are obliterating the details, because you don't really see much detail in the shadows of a painting or in the shadows of a photo. But if the light is obliterating all the details of the main and everything, really those lighter areas are where the detail should be found. So it can be a little bit difficult. But yeah, just using Photoshop and things, you can sort of bring out some of the details a little bit more. Right, right. Let's get the angled brush out now. And I want an even lighter colour. So I'm going to start putting some lighter bits of fur in. Try and build up this edge here. Just putting in these little tufts. I think I'm going to do some more glazing of the colours in a second with this one. Starting to get there a little bit though. I don't think it'll be much longer, this painting. I'm working on a big, sort of long, thin tiger at the minute. So I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, but I did a cheetah the other week. It was quite a long, thin one. It was 30 centimeters by 100 centimeters, and I really like the composition and sort of like the canvas. So I've done a tiger as well, which will be going to my exhibition in Manchester when it's finished. I've done all the body. It's just the head I've got to do now. And like one of the questions I get asked sometimes is, why do I do the body first? Why did I like leave the head until last? And that's purely because if I do the head first, I enjoy the head the most, and I get a bit bored after I've painted the face, and then my painting tends to get a little bit sloppy. Like all my brushwork and everything starts to get a little bit sloppy and a little bit rushed for the rest of the body. So if I save the face until last, I'm more likely to do all the nice, neat brushwork on the body, and then you can't get away with rushed brushwork on a face. So I'm more likely to pay more attention to it. I don't get bored as easily, and the painting just looks better overall. I'm gonna need a drink after this. I don't think I've ever been so tired after painting. I can get it looking quite soft, but also quite 3D and quite solid looking as well. Soft but solid. That's what we want. Okay. Now I'm going to use my detailed brush. And I think first off, I'm just going to try and put a few little darker detailed strands of fur, just using some black, some blue, and a little bit of raw umber. And just going to put a few darks back into this piece, especially like in areas above the ears. So these little bits. Get the ears a little bit darker. Eye, like that, a little bit darker. The nose. Just a little bit of the muzzle. The mouth. And then let's get some little bits of darker fur. That is too dark, so we'll lighten it up a touch with a little bit of whites. And then, yeah, I'm just putting in a few little darker strokes. Oh, that's not dark enough now. Add a little bit more black, a little bit more blue, and what I'll do is just do a very, very thin glaze, so it'll disappear back into the paint. So just literally just put in some little tufts of darker fur. just in some areas. Gonna need some down here. Gonna need some here. Gonna need a little bit, a couple of bits here. Put a little bit on the leg. I think my bulbs are going a little bit, which is why the light keeps on changing. A little bit on the back of these legs, a little bit on the actual tail. We can go a little bit darker with this tail, I think, a little bit bluer. And then a little bit on this back leg as well. Just like that. Okay. Next up, I'm going to start thinking about my light fur. So what I'm going to do is going to get just my pure white, just mix it with a little bit of the grey, and just start to think about where I want this lighter fur. Just still using it quite watered down. But building up those colours, building up those tiny little strands of fur over the top of what I put down. Try and get the head looking a little bit more 3D. Hopefully it's looking a little bit wolfy. Put a little highlight in its eye. And we want like a nice bit of backlighting under its jaw. Around that fur. Again, we'll have some nice little bits of strands of highlights fur just there. Well, I don't really like that too much, so we need to add a little bit more just there. Oh no, I do not like that. So I'm just going to get some on my finger, a little bit of water, just smudge it back. Thanks, Kevin. Nice talking to you. Hopefully I can get this wolf finished before midnight. This is definitely the one that is the most difficult. Really struggling with this wolf. really struggling. Maybe it'll come together when I start doing some more glazing. Let's get these legs in as well. Maybe that'll help. So just using the white, just to put in some of these lighter colours. Pretty much just pure white, not quite pure white, just a little bit off. Gonna be so much glazing to do on this one. Let's get that little bone in. Putting all these little strands in the leg, lightening it up a bit, try and give it a little bit more form. A bit more little loose strands, just knocking around. I think what I'm going to do, get all this white in, and then just do some final little colour glazes just to adjust it that little bit more and get everything where I want it to be. So because I'm going to do that, I'm going to add a bit more white than I usually would everywhere. So like here, I'm going to just add a little bit of white here as well. Wouldn't usually add it there, but I'm going to glaze it in a second to get all those colours right, or at least better. Put some of that detailed fur in. Same thing on these back legs. Anyone got any questions? Thank you, Angela. Um, yeah, so I've just done a video on painting the human eye, and there's loads of like little tips on painting the skin in that video, but like basically the sort of summary for painting skin uh, with acrylics is just glaze, and the thinner layers that you can get will sort of bring the painting to life a little bit more. Because if you think about like if you're going for realism, like hyper realism, skin is quite transparent, it's quite translucent, and by building up those layers of translucent paint, you can really get it looking like properly real. And for like just sort of generic, not necessarily as hyper realistic paintings, um, really, you'd be better off using oils for skin just because you can get it a lot smoother. But if you want like really, really hyper realistic, then glazing is your best friend. But yeah, it is incredibly hard to paint human skin in acrylics, like incredibly hard, especially where it's smooth skin. If it's like really wrinkled skin, it's not too bad. You just paint that skin exactly the same way you paint like an elephant's skin, like all the folds. But smooth skin, stupidly hard to paint in acrylics. And I've got a lot of like respect for people that can do it and do it well because it is very, very hard. Glaze a bit of shadow now. So like up here is going to be in shadow. This is shadow. Some shadow over here. I'm going to make this line, the shadow line, a little bit solid in a second. I'm just trying to build it up slowly. Thanks for sticking with me, Andy. Really enjoyed talking to you. Have a good evening. Okay, then to finish off the shadows, all I'm doing, I want a little bit more of that icy blue colour. So I'm just taking a little bit of blue and a little bit of my raw umber. I'm just creating a dark blue colour that'll be perfect for the shadows. So I want a bit more of that dark blue colour up here. Yeah, really like that colour. We'll have a little bit more on the tail as well. Just like down here. A little bit on this back leg. Make it nice and blue, nice and in shadow. And just put a touch of it underneath the eye as well, and a touch of it at the end of the muzzle. Just like that. And then finally, to finish it off, let's just knock some of this back. It's a bit too white there. Right, now I want some white, some pure, thick white paint. And I'm just going to pick out some bits that I think should be a little bit whiter than what we've got so far. So definitely pretty much everything that we've got along this edge needs to be a lot whiter. Like almost showing that backlit effect, but tufting it as well. Making it nice and fuzzy. Getting it all up this leg. All down there. Really making that leg pop and stand out. Do the same thing for this leg. Getting that thick, opaque white paint. And just highlighting those edges. Really, really making them pop. Same for this back leg. Same for the tail. Maybe we'll do the same for the top of the head as well. Let's do a little bit of the jaw. Yeah, we like that. A little bit behind the ears as well. And then a little bit along the back. Like that. And we can also just some slightly thinner bits just to re-establish this lighter section here. Okay, and then just the same as the others, we're going to do a little bit of a floor thing to walk on. I'm going to be a little bit different with this one, mix it up a little bit. I'm going to just get some white paint and a flat brush. I'm going to be a little bit more solid with what I'm creating this time. So I want it almost like stood on snow. So I'm just a nice solid base to be stood on. Get some thick paint, really white. Make it almost like snow, but not quite snow. Thicker paint, get a texture in there for this one. Okay, and then to finish it off, just get some more of that white paint, like pure white. And then I'm just going to flick again, just some of that white, just over the top. I mean, it almost kind of looks like snow this time. And then I think I'm going to leave it like that, really. I'm just going to sign it. So I think for this one, where am I going to sign it? I think this one I'm going to sign over on this side. Oh, I'll just keep it the same as the others, and I'll sign it on the right-hand side. So I'm going to use a bit of brown, a bit of orange for this one, I think. A bit of that raw sienna and a little bit of burnt umber, just because I think it'll complement this part of the face. I'm just going to go very quickly. Thank you very much, guys. So again, this piece will be available through the Artist for Painted Dogs website. And 50% of the proceeds will be going towards wildlife conservation. So again, I'll just read out those charities that they are going to. So it's gonna be the Game Rangers International. We've got Game Rangers International, we've got the Endangered Wildlife Trust, and we have the Wildlife ACT as well. So all of this, whether it's a small sketch like this for the Sketchathon or the originals, they are all up on the Artist for Painted Dogs website. There's a link to that in my description. So even if you don't want to buy something, just go and check it out and go and have a look at all the incredible artwork that's on there. There's so many fantastic artists that have contributed. So make sure to go and check it out. And if you would like to buy this painting, please just purchase it through the website. It would be incredible to help support all those fantastic charities and myself. Obviously, I will get 50% of the proceeds, so it does mean a lot to me as well. But yeah, other than that, I'll very quickly show you all the other paintings that I've done today, and then I will shoot off because I really need to stretch my legs. So we've got the wolf, obviously, and then we've got our wild dog that was the early part of this stream. I think this wild dog might actually be my favourite of the 6 pieces that I've created. We've got the polar bear. We've got, what else have we got? I've got my gorilla, but the gorilla has now sold, which is fantastic. Got the cheetah, which wasn't part of the stream. I actually finished that off before the stream, but I have actually filmed the whole process of that cheetah, so I will be making the cheetah. It's a standalone YouTube time lapse, probably on Friday. So you can stick around to watch that as well on Friday. And then this one has now sold as well, so the original has gone. And then the final one that I've done, so the 6th one, is the Panda, which again is another one of my favourites, and that was on the earlier stream if you wanted to watch that. But that's pretty much it. I really want to say thank you to everyone that has watched, and thank you for all the comments, and thank you for keeping me company. It's been a real pleasure talking to you all, and hopefully I'm going to be doing more live streams, probably on my Patreon channel at first, just because it's a lot of effort to do the live streaming and it really hurts my neck. Um, but then I'm hoping I'll do some on YouTube as well as standalone YouTube pieces if I get time to do it, but they will be on my Patreon at some point. Again, if you feel like supporting me and you feel like getting some more like wildlife videos that aren't on my YouTube channel, please just check out my Patreon. It's really cheap, just £4 a month for that, and I think there's 20 videos currently, and I'm trying to put out 2 new ones every month. So yeah, thank you very much, and I will see you next time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you will go and check out all the paintings on the websites, so the Painted Dogs, Artists for Painted Dogs website. Thank you very much, and I will end the stream now. You've all been brilliant.